Steve, onto the next area I want to discuss with you. You sold your first gym in 2015 for a really good profit, and you took off to America for a really long holiday. I actually remember it well because I remember thinking to myself, is this bloke ever coming back? I think he's relocated to the US. Mate, what tips can you give to anyone wanting to sell their business?
The first one is just run your business now as if you plan to sell it at some point. So keep everything sort of organized. You don't want to be running up too much debt. You don't want to be. I sometimes I was at my accountant yesterday and I watched this guy walk in, old school, with like a shoebox full of receipts. And I was like, that's not a business that anyone would buy because it's a freaking mess. I just think, yeah, try and think about the systems in your business, the debt, the way like the staff development. Try and actually run it on a day-to-day business that it would be good enough and attractive to someone else to actually buy. And then it's not that hard to actually make those steps when you need it. I would say like sell it before you need to sell it or want to sell it. I the gym I sold in 2015, I would have liked to have sold in 2013. It was flying, it was making lots of money, would have sold for a really good profit. And I probably just hung on to it too late. I was actually getting a bit over it. I was part of a franchise system and I just didn't feel like I could. Yeah, it was still challenging me or entertaining me in the things I wanted to learn and sort of put my time in. So I sat on it so long that it actually became like a negative experience, but I didn't want to go to work and I stopped sort of really having that desire to be there. So it sounds weird, but yeah, if you sort of got a bit of an inkling that a sale could be a good idea for you, I think that's probably a good time to entertain it rather than waiting to, oh shit, I absolutely hate this and I should have sold it a year ago. Um, I got a couple more. Anything, because you sold as well for a good profit. Anything you'd add to the list?
Yeah, probably a couple of things. Now, this one may not be such a relevant one right now, but back when I was selling my gym, I was probably I hope there's no one from the ATA on this call, ATO, but I was probably taking a little bit of cash out of the business, and obviously that's hard to quantify when you're selling your business. So I'd say if you know you're leading up to a period there, make sure everything goes through the books.
Yeah.
So the books are really reflective of what your business is doing, what your revenues and your profits are, because it's a little bit hard to sell that one. So that'd be one tip. Again, probably not as much of an issue in today's world where cash is slowly disappearing. I love your point about selling. I wasn't actually necessarily hard advertising my business when I sold. It was actually an approach from someone else that got me thinking about it, and then sort of trying to really work on getting a few sort of people interested in the business. I thought was really important. Just puts you in a much better position if you're dealing with more than one party. I think in negotiations was another one. They'd probably be, and like you said, Steve, just really having knowing what financials that you need for this type of process, and just having those in order in advance, so you look really organised when it comes to the time that you're not chasing your tail. They're probably a couple ones.
Yeah, things I would sort of add to that. We've like owned properties, like investment properties and homes we've lived in, and like everyone needs a home. So if they come to have a bit of a look through your house and it isn't to their liking, there's a list of other people that probably want to live in that suburb, and you eventually move it on. It's just not the case with businesses. Not everyone has the skills or the nous or the interest or the money to buy a business. So if you don't have 3 years of P&Ls and some clear financials and stuff ready when that person comes looking, like let's say you advertise and someone goes, yep, there's my non-disclosure agreement signed, send me over the financials. If you can't send that day, what that tells me is that person's behind the scenes trying to make the books look nicer because it wasn't ready to send. It's either done and it's a business that's organized and we're very transparent, or if I get those in a week or two, it's because you've been doctoring it with your bookkeeper to make it look better than it actually is. So I think having it organized is really, really important. I also think like let's say your business has crushed for 10 years and then your last kind of 6 months hasn't been great. That's what you're actually going to sell it for is the last 6 months. So if you're feeling tired and you're thinking about moving your business on or selling it, I would crank up the enthusiasm, the energy, and the effort, and I would crank your numbers up. So the main thing that those people are going to look at in the business that I've noticed is the last 90 days. Is this business moving in the right direction or is it a sinking ship? But no one's going to pay like really good money for a business that was good a couple of years ago and recently is just literally falling off a cliff. I think removing yourself is an important one. No one wants to, leave a corporate job, come and buy a gym, and then work 80 hours a week. So they need to believe that the business won't fall over when that you and all your sort of relationships leave. Um, if you've got a manager in place, if there's someone that helps out on sales, if there's a bit of, marketing automation, that's a business that'll be attractive to a lot of people. I was only in my first gym like Monday to Thursday till lunchtime. So when John came to buy it from me, I think he could see himself going, oh, okay, I've actually got another business. I got another gym, but like he's literally only in there Monday to Thursday. He would go in at times and like chat to my trainers, chat to the members and try and suss out like how often is this bloke actually in here? Is it going to be like real different? And I don't think it had a huge change when I sort of stepped out because I wasn't too hands-on.
Yeah,
Um,
that's an important one, Steve. I think particularly these days, people don't want to buy a job. Maybe in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, people were buying themselves a job. They don't want to buy themselves a job now. So you need to be able to demonstrate that you're going to be able to remove yourself from that business, and it, like you said, it's not going to fall apart.
yeah, I think that feels risky, doesn't it? Like you said that point before that people are going to buy it based on direct debits, not cash. A friend of mine has cafes, and he gave me like a real good example in on the Northern Beaches where he sold a cash business. Said it was amazing for years because he was like tax free, taking all this cash. But when he went to sell it, it sold for 60 grand because there was nothing on the books to show that that was actually even like profitable. He had another business doing pretty similar, but was just like switching over to the card. He wouldn't go in as often. He was worried people would steal the cash that worked for him. So he just said, everyone card, everyone card. Um, when it came time to sell, the evaluation is based on what you can demonstrate in your sort of P&L. So I thought your tip was really important in making sure there's heaps of direct debits that's where it'll be sort of valued. Um, I think it's good to have a think about what's best case scenario for you in terms of a handover period. Most people that buy a business are sort of thinking, well, shit, what if I have questions? So I think you've got to say, hey, here's the price, but here's the terms in which I'll give it to you as well. I did a 30-day handover. The guy that took my business had run a similar business, knew what he was looking at. But I gave him the ability to call me for an hour once a month for 6 months. You don't have to do stuff like that, but I think it actually helps smooth it out where they're not panicky or holding up the transaction or the settlement because it's like, oh, well, I don't have every little question answered. If you can just say, that's the price, but I'll be available and these are the terms for it. What I didn't want to be is in the gym, every day, sort of holding his hand, or I didn't want to be on call, you know, uh, 24 hours a day or something like that.
I
Um,
think we got a pretty good question here from
yeah,
Laura,
what's this one?
actually, Steve. So, is it worth having an exit plan or strategy ahead of time, or do we continue along without the consideration of it ever ending if we are not ready to plan that factor it in?
So that in again, this is only my opinion, Laura. I think you should have an exit plan, even if you plan to stay. Um, I think my current gym at Rush Cutters, with my current level of involvement, with the current like profit that we take, I could do this for another 20 years. So you want to build it in a way that it's enjoyable to run and that you like being there. But at the same time, I'm 100% open to the idea that someone comes up, says, I live in the area or I'm a client of yours, I love it. Can I write you a check and let you just go and spend a year in Europe? And I would entertain that because why not? Like, it doesn't mean I have to take the offer, but I don't think you're ever going to get that offer, or you're going to get many opportunities to get a payday or some type of nest egg unless you've actually been doing this from the start.
I think additionally, Laura, you've always got to sort of build your business that way because you never know what may happen. God forbid anything untoward happening, but if something did prevent you from working in the business, big hours and running the show, you want to have a business model that's going to continue to provide you with revenue and income. So I guess along the same lines as what you're talking about there, in the case of potentially being ready to sell, that would be another aspect that I would always consider.
Good.